Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. Earlier today, the crypto market was jumping up a bit, though there has been a little bit more downside price action for some coins since then. But still, just looking at Live Coin Watch here, you can see it's mostly a sea of green rather than red. Some coins up a few percentage points, some closer to 8 or 9%. Bitcoin's mostly flat at this moment, though it was a little bit higher earlier. And the reason is that something happened today. Some news came out, and it's the type of thing that ultimately fuels rallies, so I want to talk a bit about that. And also, there are a ton of XRP chart analysts talking about the concept of XRP capitulation. Sounds scary, would mean XRP going a lot lower before it goes higher, but are we actually doomed here? Well, I do want to spend a little time talking about that as well. But before going further, I do want to be clear, I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice. And you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. As I record this video, it is 6:31 p.m. Central Time on Friday, September 26, 2025. XRP is $2.78. You got Bitcoin a little below $110,000. And you can see it's been volatile. You know, XRP was as low as $2.70 this morning, jumped as high as $2.81. So not a crazy breakaway, but there is some news that came, which at least, even if it's just to a modest degree, certainly impacted the market. Here you can see the headline from CNBC. Core inflation rate held at 2.9% in August, as expected, Fed's gauge shows. So today, we got the Fed's favorite inflation number, the PCE index, and it came in at 2.7% year over year. Now, core PCE, which strips out food and energy, was at 2.9%. Both numbers were right in line with expectations, so technically no surprise there. You know, this is coming off the heels of, obviously, a more dramatic drop yesterday, so I think the market was still happy to even just see that expectations were met. But you see, the concern is that these numbers, they're the highest since February. So in other words, inflation isn't steadily dropping anymore. It's actually starting to tick back up. Now, normally that would force the Fed to pause or even think about raising rates again. And of course, we actually just had our first rate cut in a hot minute, right? That just happened this month, 25 basis point cut. But so you get normal circumstances, maybe you look at this and think, wow, well, that's probably going to result in the Fed pivoting, maybe pausing or raising rates again. But despite this, frankly, the Fed is absolutely still on track to keep cutting, which is what you want if you hold risk on assets like stocks and crypto. And here's why. Yes, just the other day, you know, the GDP, and I mentioned this in a video literally yesterday, the GDP for the second quarter was revised higher, showing the economy grew faster than we first thought. Now, on the surface, anyway, that makes things look strong. Now, underneath, there are some signs of softening. You can look at a bunch of different metrics, frankly. You know, job growth is cool. Credit conditions tight. You know, leading economic indicators still point to slower growth ahead. And the Fed knows that keeping rates too high for too long certainly risks tipping things over, you know, especially when with so much debt in the system. And because long-term inflation expectations are still anchored near 2%, I mean, that's what they're articulating anyway, you know, they feel that they can ease without losing credibility. And so that means real rates are falling, liquidity obviously increasing, and frankly, this is why it should matter to you if you're an XRP holder, risk assets love that. In fact, we likely saw this play out today. You know, crypto prices bounced modestly after the PCE report because, you know, traders interpreted the data as, you know, not too hot, not too cold, coming off the heels of some negative price action the other day anyway. So I would think that would be pretty welcome, obviously, like I said a minute ago. But yeah, inflation's rising, but at least it's in line with expectations, and that keeps the Fed on track to cut. And prediction markets indicate just that, in fact. So even if the move wasn't huge, the narrative clearly supported at least a short-term lift in sentiment. And so for crypto, including XRP, absolutely, and again, this is why it matters, this is exactly the kind of backdrop that fuels rallies. Inflation lingering above target, you know, plus easier money. Well, that creates the same kind of setup we saw back in 2020 and 2021, last market cycle, when crypto exploded higher. And so, as I always say, history tends to rhyme with itself. You should expect that. And also, I'll just mention this since I've been focusing on this a lot. You never see alt season without the Russell 2000 breaking out. So that's small cap stocks, and that matters because that, the Russell 2000 starts going. That's the opening of breadth in terms of investment, and that shows a greater appetite for risk on assets. And so it's not surprising when the Russell 2000 goes, that is when alts go. That would be fantastic for XRP. And we did hit a new all-time high for the first time last week. And then we had an intraday all-time high in the last few days anyway. But the all-time high for the close last week, that was the first one in nearly 4 years. And so, yeah, the Russell went down the other day. But now today, it's up almost 1%. I have a hard time believing that it got back to this level, poked above, just be like, okay, I'm done for now. Like, it doesn't make sense, especially with Global M2 doing what it's doing. Those funds have got to go somewhere, and when there's more money sloshing around, people tend to end up with a greater appetite for risk on assets. So I know people are scared in the short term. I don't think they're going to be so scared if you just let enough time pass. I think people are going to be, frankly, in blissful euphoria if you just let enough time pass. I still think that's coming. Here's a post from the great Matsby. He said, and this is the crypto total market cap. He says, total is still just range bound and building a base at the highest levels ever, yet people think we are losing all kinds of support and saying it's game over. And folks, that is what I keep seeing. And if you're on social media, you've probably had a pretty similar experience. Lots of doom and gloom out there. Tons of it. And this is happening at a time, and I admit it's a key level. I've been talking about that too. And sometimes the improbable happens, fine, it could crater on down. That is not what's probable, though. I think we're going to blaze to the upside, and then XRP finally, for the first time in the better part of a decade, is going to go on a face-melting rally. We're still waiting for that final price discovery face-melting phase of things, and I still think that's next. It just doesn't make sense that humans are not going to behave like humans always behave, which is, you take profit from Bitcoin, and then you stay greedy, and then you invest it in other coins that haven't pumped yet. You think that human behavior, it just doesn't apply anymore because reasons, even though global M2 has just been increasing and near all-time highs right now. Like, come on. I just don't see how you could think that's probable anyway. Not that we can't go lower in the short term. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, fast forward like a year from now, like when we look back at what happens over those 12 months, do you really think that we're like, well, that was the peak actually in September 2025? I doubt it. I really doubt it. I think we're going way, way, way freaking higher. But again, it doesn't mean we can't go lower first. And so last night, the blockchain backer shared this post, and this has been going all over the place. This has been seen 271,000 times, and for good reason. The blockchain backer wrote, XRP has created a structure that commonly leads to a capitulation. So he's not trying to scare anybody. This is what he sees in the charts. And, I've gotten perspective from a number of analysts, which I'm going to highlight in this video. Doesn't mean it's the end of the world. And I have not seen the blockchain backer say this is necessarily the end of the world. But you can see what he's talking about. He's showing XRP on the left. That's where we are right now in 2025. But then he's showing what it looked like last market cycle, 2021, 2022. Structurally, basically the same thing. Cratered on down, capitulation. And then he shows Bitcoin, same structure there. Bitcoin 2018, capitulation. So should we expect it to go, XRP to go a bit lower? Well, actually, as it turns out, there are a lot of analysts that I follow that think that's absolutely plausible. So this isn't some sort of situation, at least most analysts that I follow would say, this isn't something to scare you. It doesn't mean it's the end of the party. But this would also likely happen in conjunction with a broader crypto pullback. And that stuff happens all the time. And so chart analyst Credible Crypto, he opined on this as well. And I think that he and the blockchain backer are a couple of the best analysts out there in the entire crypto space. Credible Crypto here with a well-deserved 477,000 followers. He's basically showing, he's literally showing the same thing. It's the same time period. This is today. This is 2025 here on your screen, the XRP USD chart here. And so he commented on this. Credible Crypto wrote, getting a lot of people asking me about a capitulation scenario on XRP, and I've already replied to like 5 different comments about it, so posting this so I don't need to keep replying to everyone individually. The chart that seems to have people in a panic is this one here, and that's what's on your screen. Says, and this is exactly why it's important to zoom out and consider context at all times. When we zoom out, this structure is the structure in the orange circle on the higher on this higher time frame chart. And so now here's the more zoomed out view. So again, what I was showing you here, this is the first chart from Credible Crypto. That's a zoomed in view going back the last few months. Okay, then you go to the second chart from him, and that's what it looks like in this little orange circle right here. And he says, as I stated in the quoted tweet below, if Bitcoin were to see sub $105,000, that probably means XRP breaks this floor for a dip lower. However, this doesn't change the higher time frame setup, which remains extremely bullish. I wouldn't call this capitulation per se, but it would be a dip, along with everything else, likely below the triple lows at $2.65-ish, and into higher time frame demand at $2 to $2.40. Okay, so if it goes that low, I know it's going to scare a lot of people. It will not scare me, because as I've said many times, even if we were actually going into a bear market and the highs are already in for the cycle, which I do not believe, then I'll see in several years. I'm just going to keep holding. In fact, I'll accumulate more over the next few years because I'm going to keep earning new money. And then I'll just have even more the next time we have a market pump. So I'm still going to win. Like, just control the parts that you can control and let go of the rest. You don't control when the market pumps, but either you have exposure to the market when it happens or you don't. That's the part you control. And since you don't know when that's going to happen, that's why to me it's just like HODL life is the way to go. Just holding. And then Credible Crypto says, that is around a 10 to 15% drop to the downside, referencing XRP here, of course, which is what we would see for most coins in the space, not just XRP. And it would likely be one of the first/strongest to bounce back and recover into new all-time highs when the market rebounds. So he's saying even if we dropped to those types of levels, XRP is still fine. It doesn't signal the end of the market cycle. That's his perspective here. Here's a post from chart analyst Bob Ye. He's also recognizing that, yeah, XRP could go lower, but ain't going to scare him. He says a golden pocket retest for XRP from its latest low to swing high would be between $2.50 to $2.55, and it wouldn't change a single thing about where the asset is heading. Okay, maybe just one thing. More than likely, it would weed out all the I don't know what that word is, Lutugahans who don't deserve to benefit from what is to come for those who can see what is coming ahead of the rest. Strategy plus patience. So this wouldn't change his perspective either. And this is what I keep seeing. And I'm just giving you a few examples in this video, but out of all the analysts, all the rest of the analysts that acknowledge, yeah, actually that could happen, what the blockchain backer was warning about, they're all still insisting that what's going to happen is the market's going to rebound and we're just ultimately going to go higher. And it would be weird to, for the first time, have a bull run, which is, I believe, what we're in, end without an alt season. That does not make logical sense to me. Here's Chart Nerd. He was also commenting on the blockchain backers post about capitulation. And he said, capitulation is a strong terminology. Coming back to the $2.60 to $2.40 40 level noted, however, would reset the launch pad completely. And so there are some people that are offering some critique saying that capitulation is too strong of a word. It's more like we're just moving down. Whatever, that's subjective, whether you think that or don't think that. I don't have a problem. I mean, that is a fairly big drop, so I personally don't have a problem with him using, just my opinion, I don't have a problem with the word capitulation being used here. Some analysts, again, fine, they're entitled to their own perspective. They think that's too strong, but it is a drop, and definitionally, that is what it would be. And I think it would shake out the weak hands, and then, like a Chart Nerd said here, reset the launch pad completely. And he is still calling, by the way, for some huge price targets. Chart Nerd here in a separate post, calling for $8 XRP, another key level at $15, and then he thinks XRP is going to peak this cycle at $27. He posted that this morning. So whatever happens here, it's not changing his perspective. Excuse me. Here's a post from chart analyst Greg Crypto from this morning. XRP USD chart on the screen here. The bullish engulfing candle. People are crying out while they should be scooping it out. So he's got a little shopping cart there. I think he just means buying stuff. Says, if I see anyone asking for a dip again, I might block them. You wanted prices below $3? Well, here it is. The next time we see a bullish engulfing candle on the weekly chart, XRP could shoot up to new all-time highs, possibly reaching around $7.30. But if Bitcoin drops more, watch for the important level at $2.60 and maybe even down to $2.37. If we hit $2.37 before the next rise, it's your chance to buy cheap. XRP is holding us above the bull market support band, so we are in a strong position. As long as we don't see any full body candles closing below the lower end of the bull market support band, we're in good shape. And so again, these are just a few examples. I'm not seeing panic out there. I'm not seeing these XRP chart analysts who have great accuracy over a long period of time. I'm not seeing any of them flip higher time frame bearish. None of them are big picture bearish on XRP all of a sudden. And again, like I've made so many videos recently, especially over the recent weeks, highlighting how macro conditions are so perfectly primed in a way that we haven't seen in several years. And it's at a time when you would logically expect it to happen because history rhymes with itself. And that'll just be fantastic for XRP. XRP will be one of the greatest beneficiaries of this environment when things really do start rampaging and we have alt season. Here's a post from chart analyst Dark Defender. He says, XRP has completed the ABCDE wave correction on the daily time frame. Just a bit of patience was needed. Although we use the historical patterns to predict upcoming moves, and as said, although the patterns appear similar, we need to remind ourselves that the use case of XRP is incomparable to 2017 and 2021. Yes, some indicators are bearish, and I admit it, but we are not in 2017. We are expecting ABCD consolidation instead of a harsh consolidation. Can this harsh consolidation still be the case? Yes, but I believe the demand for XRP is increasing like mad day by day. So this consolidation can fade out, staying between $3.33 to $2.64. I have been sharing the possible support levels here and on Dark Side in much detail. And so he says, ultimately, as long as support levels are maintained, there is no limitation for XRP reaching double digits. Not financial advice, but just my thoughts only. Yeah, and I don't think that's crazy. I don't make price predictions. I'm not a chart guy myself. That would bore me to tears, so I just don't want to. I do not want to do that. It also wouldn't change what I do with my investment. I'm very strict with myself. It's nothing but hodling for me. I don't get in and out of positions. I don't sell a coin thinking something's going to go higher and then go chase that. If I want a separate coin, then I will just, with new money, go buy that coin. But once I invest, I just stay invested. I'm just very strict with myself on that. It's worked out quite well for me. My crypto is worth a fortune compared to what I put in, and I'm very happy for that. I've been here since 2017. It's just time in the market is way more important than timing the market. Timing the market, not so much. If you're playing macro swings, that's one thing, but I'm just talking about, the short-term stuff, the trader style thing. People lose money doing that stuff. It just doesn't make any damn sense. But yeah, so look, double-digit price action. I don't know if it'll happen. I don't think that's crazy. I don't think $10 is crazy, or 15 or 20 or 25, maybe even 30. The higher you go, the less confident I am we're going to hit it. But, tons of analysts I follow have predictions somewhere in that range, so perhaps the truth is somewhere in between. And I think that would be more than sufficient for tons of you listening. I think that if you get anywhere in that range, I think that's going to be life-changing for tons of you listening. And so, like I said at the outset, like what's happening right now on a macro scale, I mean, this is what fuels rallies. It is coming. I am not the least bit afraid of a little bit of a pullback before that happens. Everything gonna be all right, folks. All right? I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.